industrial revolution. We had a technological revolution, and now we're having a productivity revolution with new access to AI and machine learning, et cetera, to help us take some of the menial tasks off our plates and have more opportunity to be more productive, allegedly, right? But this is the new problem that we are working to solve, and we can talk about the merits of that later if there's time, right? But my point is, problems are everywhere. They're easy to identify, especially if you can get your head to thinking outside of the box just a little bit, right? So those of you, I saw some of your descriptions of the problems that you want to solve. I know some of you already have problems in mind, but for those of you who are really searching for a new particular problem, go to the headlines about your day, the headlines about the days of people in your lives, the headlines in the newspapers. They're all about problems, and they're just waiting for different solutions. So the goal of this workshop is to teach you a few tricks to help you more systematically identify problems. But keep in mind, right, that we can't stop with problems. What we really want are good ideas for solving these problems and turning them into a business. So the first approach I want to take is to think about creative problem solving. And most people think that creativity is a eureka moment, that aha, like I figured it out, this big burst of inspiration that sometimes you just have to sit around and wait for, and then you get your aha and you know you're supposed to write about for your final paper. But creativity is not like that. Creativity is actually a way of life. It's something that you need to do every day to practice and get good at. If you're not an athlete, if you don't exercise regularly, and if you've never run a marathon, you're not running one tomorrow. I guarantee you you're unprepared to run a marathon tomorrow unless you've been training to run a marathon, or if it's something that you've done in your past. The same thing with creativity. If you're not practicing your creativity on a regular basis, I guarantee you that you're not trained to be in a position to do creative problem solving. It's the same thing as playing an instrument. If you've never played an oboe before, you're not going to be good at it tomorrow when you pick it up, right? Or at least even if you're really good with musical instruments, you're not as good as you could be if you practiced, right? So we need to practice creativity. Did you know that creativity is close to 80% learned and acquired? So coming up with ideas might be easy, but being creative is actually hard work. So here's a statistic for you. 90% of 5-year-olds are highly creative. By age 17, that number drops to 10%. And by age 20, that number drops to 5%, where it stayed. So if any of y'all out here over 20, like me, that means that our creativity is on the struggle bus unless we do something about it. It's also important to remember that successful creativity never really comes from a single idea. It builds on ideas, and it's something that happens over time. Also important to remember that groups will select more creative ideas than people who are working alone. So if we're doing creative problem solving, what do we need to do? Promised you would be systematic. So here we have 4 steps to creative problem finding. The first is to ask the right questions to arrive at the most innovative answers. You might not be focused on the right problem because you're not asking the right question, right? If you ask yes or no questions, is productivity a problem? People say yes. Well, then you're kind of stuck, right? That's it. It was a yes or no question. If you ask, how might we increase individuals' productivity? Well, then there's so many possibilities there, right? How might we? There's small things, there are big things. But if we say, would you like to improve your productivity levels? And someone says no, again, we're stopped. There isn't anywhere to go beyond that. But if we ask them, how would you like to enhance your ability to balance your family life and your work life? How might we do that? Then again, we have lots of possibilities. So the first trick for creative problem solving is to learn to ask the right questions. Avoid yes or no questions. Consider how might we questions that inspires creative thinking. The next step to creative problem finding is to explore everything. Explore ideas, explore your imagination, explore people, explore places, explore play. Be really proactive in your creativity. Make exploring and learning a lifestyle. We have a tendency to do this with little kids, right? Everything is a learning moment for them because they're little kids. Well, did you know that this crack in the sidewalk is because blah, blah, blah? And be careful not to put your hand on the stove because you can get burned and blah, blah. Everything is a teaching moment. And then somehow we send our kids to school and then we stop learning in that way. We stop making everything an opportunity to explore. So don't turn down a chance to learn something new. And I'm preaching to the choir here because you're all in this boot camp because you want to learn something new, but also never turn down a chance to pause. People who don't slow down rarely realize their creative potential because they're always doing, they're always going. And even if that pause is just 3 to 5 minutes for a brief meditation, or 3 to 5 minutes to just sit down and rest, if you can get your family to give you that time, you might be surprised at how exploring silence and pauses and space can lead you to more creativity. Here's a thing I also like to do when I have downtime. Take my phone, right? Photograph the same scene on every possible setting on my phone. So A, I finally understand what all those different settings do. And B, it's a way for me to explore how taking a picture of one thing can be seen from so many different angles and filters and timers, etc. So if you are waiting to pick someone up, you've got an extra 5 minutes or so, just pick something, right, that you can put in the focus of your camera and take multiple pictures of it to start to explore different angles, different possibilities, and you might find some problems that you hadn't considered before. The third step is to fuse. And that's when you bring everything together. You fuse your divergent and unexpected connections. It's kind of like cooking sometimes. You're in your kitchen, you're like, man, I'm really hungry. What do I have in this refrigerator? I'm like, well, I got a little bit of this. I got a little bit of that. They don't normally go together, but maybe I can put them together and come up with something to eat, something that's different than what I did before. This is the improv idea of saying yes and. If anybody out here is into improv or has practiced it in any way, this idea that when you've got a partner in a scene, whatever it is they give you, whatever they're doing physically or whatever they say verbally, you have to accept it and run with it. So yes and fill in the blank. And then the next person takes that yes and fills in the blank, but they don't say but, and they don't say no, because again, that stops our creativity. And this practice of the yes and is what encourages you to keep the ball rolling, to get outside of your box and have these really unexpected and divergent connections. Does anybody want to play a yes and? Anyone want to go camera on and play with me? We could try it in the chat, but there's always a delay when we're typing, and the yes and works best when you're on the spot. Okay, well, if anybody changes your mind, just let me know. We can practice some fusion there. Uh-oh, it's Marley.
I'll do it. Hey.
Okay. All right. So Marley, since it's just me and you, we're going to tweak the game a little bit.
Okay.
So instead of yes and, we're going to do fortunately, unfortunately, right?
Okay.
So you'll tell me something and I'll say unfortunately, and we'll just carry the idea. But then when it's your turn again, you'll say, but fortunately, and then I'll say unfortunately and add something else and we'll go back and forth. Does that make sense?
Yes. Can you start it though?
Or do you want me to start it? Okay.
Yeah.
So fortunately, so this means you'll do the unfortunately when it's your turn.
Correct.
Fortunately, it's raining outside.
Ooh. Unfortunately, I can't walk my dog.
Fortunately, the dog is tired and doesn't want to walk anyway.
Unfortunately, she should have to walk every day.
Fortunately, your dog is in really good physical shape.
Unfortunately, I feel like a bad dog mom if I don't walk her.
Fortunately, your dog is still alive. You're fine.
Unfortunately, she has too much energy.
Fortunately, you happen to be a person that also has a lot of energy.
Unfortunately, it's because I've drank 3 coffees today.
Fortunately, the price of coffee is not as expensive as it could be.
Oh, unfortunately, I still don't agree with spending the $6 I did at Starbucks this morning.
Fortunately, I predict some money coming in your future. We can call it there. Thank you, Marley.
You're welcome.
But Marley, one more question. How did it feel doing the back and forth?
Good.
Okay.
Cool. Good to think of something on the spot.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
Because for everyone else, thank you, Marley. What we just did was getting these unexpected connections. She didn't know what I was going to say. I didn't know what she was going to say, but we still stayed on our toes and did that back and forth. Were some of them sillier than others? Like, absolutely. But that's the point, right? It's the practice of fusion, getting these divergent and unexpected connections to come together. That's how you spark your creativity. And then the last thing is to decide. Right? Once you've done these other things, like once you've had your experience asking and exploring and fusing, then you decide on an idea to pursue, but be open to undoing that idea and redoing that idea. If I had to give one piece of advice to entrepreneurs, I would say, don't fall in love with your idea. Because when you fall in love with your idea, that means that, again, we talked about being stuck. That means you're resistant to change when it might be time to shift. Maybe there are changes in the environment that mean you have to shift. Maybe there's changes in your life that means you have to shift. Maybe there's economic changes in the world where you have to shift. Maybe it's a family situation where you have to shift. But if you are flexible enough to be prepared to shift, then your business can still survive. So let's talk a little bit more about using creativity to get to these good ideas, right? The first thing you can do is just straight up look around and be like, what are the problems that need solutions? Just as a practice. Every time you leave the house, I'm like, what is a problem? You know what? It's a problem that I don't have an extension cord in this room and there's never a place for me to plug up my phone. It's a problem that I always wait to get gas into the morning and then I'm running late, right? It's a problem that fill in the blank. But you can also start to think of solutions. The more you explore and play and fuse in your world, you're like, you know what? It'd be really awesome if someone built an app that did X, right? Wait, well, why would people want an app to do X? Oh, I have a solution, but the problem actually precedes the X, right? So sometimes we can get to good ideas by starting with the problem. Sometimes we get to good ideas by starting with the solution. But we always need to check ourselves and make sure that the solutions aren't creating problematic problems. Does that make sense? What if we're solving a problem, but we're excluding a particular population? What if we're solving a problem, but we're offending someone when we're doing it, right? What if we're solving a problem that inadvertently creates new problems for another population? So we need to always like check ourselves when we're establishing these problems. Well, when we are identifying problems, we are identifying solutions that need problems and making sure that we're not making the situation worse. Okay, so I'd like to practice this. Tell me in the chat, what annoys you about your El Camino College experience? From big things to little things, but just remember it's the chat, so we'll have your name on it. What annoys you about your El Camino College experience? I'll put some mood music on. And I'll set my timer again. Let's take 2 minutes. Also, if it's easier for you to unmute, you can do that too. Okay, Marley says walking to class from the parking lot when it's cold or dark. That's legit. Professors who are aggressive with assigning homework, how far classrooms are from parking. That's 2 for parking on our annoyance list. And if you'd like to include more than one thing, you can. We got anything else out there? Difficult to set up a meeting with a counselor online. Oh, some bathrooms are scary. Okay. Other problems. So I think a big picture, we have some security issues, we have some professor issues, we have some parking issues. Difficulty scheduling with counselor. We've got some counselor issues coming up here. Students who are stuck up but forget we're all chasing goals. We've got some interpersonal issues. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to ask you to pick one of these problems that's not yours and either tell me in the chat or unmute and come up with the worst possible solution ever for these problems that we just dropped in the chat. Not good solutions, not viable solutions, the worst solution you could absolutely think of. Worst possible solutions. Oh, I don't know, Olivia, this is a good idea, actually. Golf cart transportation for every student from the parking lot to classrooms. Okay, we fail at our goals and still stuck up. How far the classrooms are. Arrive extremely early to find closer parking and wait for a class to start. Okay, I don't know, Dennis. That sounds a little reasonable. Inconvenient, certainly, but a little reasonable. All right, let's say, okay, so Rebecca's saying students who are stuck up but forget we're all chasing goals. The worst possible solution is for everyone to fail and everyone to be stuck up about their failures, right? That is, Rebecca, congratulations, a terrible idea, right? The reason why I'm asking for terrible ideas is because sometimes there's a gem of a good solution within a terrible idea, right? So maybe for this population that is still stuck up and not building community, if you let everybody actually fail, then they might realize how much they need each other. It's kind of that lesson that you do with parenting and young people sometimes. It's like, you know what? I gotta let you fail at this so that you know what failure feels like, so that you won't want to be in this position in the same way again, right? Or if everyone just completely stopped communicating, right? Everyone was in their own little silo. No one did anything together ever, including group projects, right? So that everybody did fail, then they'll realize, oh, okay, then we have to do something different in the future. We have to build community because the worst idea had a tiny bit of a good idea in it. All right, problem scheduling with the counselor. Book their schedules and don't attend the meetings. Listen, Marley, I think this is, congratulations, this is another terrible idea, right? Fully book their schedules. But if that happened, then the counselors would realize that there's a problem with the scheduling system, right? If they were fully booked and no one showed up, those counselors would be very upset. And maybe they'd start to understand why the students are so upset, right? Not being able to get appointments when they need them. And then maybe there could be a shift in the system because of that. Right? Oh, for bathrooms, the worst solution is to close them all. Again, Pedro, congratulations. It's a terrible idea. Close all the bathrooms. I was actually on a campus that shall not be named, where they just stopped cleaning the bathrooms. There were problems with safety and keeping them, so they just stopped cleaning them, and they were the nastiest places and no one ever wanted to go there, which is similar, right? So we just get rid of them, make them inaccessible, right? So that no one can have access to public restrooms. And then at some point, there'll be some sort of emergency where people will be like, oh, wait, this really is important. Now we need to do something about it, right? Anumata says, hire older professors to solve aggressive professors. Again, I think this is not a super terrible idea. There's some reasonableness in there, right? But I definitely see your point. It's that moment where you can't put your professor in your place because you're the student. But if another professor did it and you got to sit and watch, that might be kind of gratifying, right? So maybe have those opportunities where instead of students rating professors got to rate each other, right? So there's fewer consequences, maybe like what do you all do now? It's rate my professor still a thing? I stopped checking. But if there was a rate my professor for professor to professor, right? So they could get feedback, or maybe if every professor, even tenured professors, were required to have someone come and evaluate their classrooms, then that might shift the aggressive behaviors. Or maybe if there was an email audit of professors' emails, right? And other professors got to go in and decide whether they're responding to their students effectively. There are gems of good ideas in our worst ideas. So I just wanted to practice this to remind you that Sometimes, and we're like, yeah, I don't know what the solution is. Like, I just don't have an easy answer. It's a really big problem. Then think about the worst solution that you can imagine. And then maybe there's a tiny little gem of a proper solution, an effective solution in this really, really bad idea. All right. So we can get to good ideas through problems, and we can also get to good ideas through our passions. So a good idea is one that's inherently interesting. It builds on previous ideas and has the power to generate all sorts of good ideas in the future. So hopefully I'm doing this with my hands here so you all can see the importance of continuity when I'm talking about ideas. We don't want to get stuck. We don't want to be stopped, right, with our ideas by using a but or I just can't think of anything. Instead, a good idea builds on something that happened in the past. It's working with things that are happening in the present and has the potential to generate new ideas in the future. Good ideas have the ability to combine with other ideas. This is the fusion part again, in those new, intriguing ways. Sometimes our most creative ideas come from our passions, things that we are passionate about. Does anybody have any passions that you want to share with the group in the chat? Anything that you're passionate about? And at any given time, you're always ready to talk about with anybody? That if it were missing from your life, you wouldn't be your whole self anymore? We're going to push some of these passions, and I'll put myself on the spot here. So you can be thinking about your passion. Water safety for kids. Good, Melissa. Learning to swim, very important. Still on my list of things to do, learn how to swim. Passionate about helping people and making them happy. Ballet, nice. Street art, I love it. Passion of making a difference in the world, but also making my goals come true. Okay. Good. Very good. All right, I'm going to put myself on the spot here. I need a volunteer, someone to, you don't have to come on camera, but I need you to unmute. Anybody want to volunteer? I know this is terrible, right? You don't even know what you're volunteering for. I'm always looking for those brave souls. I'm like, I don't know what it is, but I'll volunteer anyway. All right, let me explain to you what's going to happen. We are going to play the 5 Whys game with one of my passions. So you will ask me about something that I'm passionate about, and I will answer you. And then you will say why, and then I'll answer you again. And your job is to count asking me why 5 times to get to the root of my passion. Okay, Rebecca's down. Okay, so Rebecca, I am passionate about entrepreneurship education. I'm passionate about yoga. I'm passionate about reading. I'm passionate about teaching. Which one do you want me to pursue?
Passionate about teaching.
Teaching. Okay. I am passionate about teaching.
What do I say again? Sorry.
Just ask me why. Each time, no matter what I say, just ask me why and count 5
Why?
times. Okay. I am passionate about teaching because I think that lifelong learning is the only solution to making the world a better place.
Why?
Because education is not just about the system. It's not about K through 12. It's not about your college degree or master's degree. It's about a mindset of curiosity.
Why?
Because if you are curious, then you'll never stop learning. You'll be curious about things external to yourself, and you'll be curious about, perhaps most importantly, yourself.
Why?
Because if you are curious about yourself, then you'll continue to grow as a human being. You'll continue to be a reflective individual, and you'll continue to ask yourself why you do the things that you do and come up with answers that make you the best version of yourself, and the best you in the world helps make the world a better place.
Why?
How many of these, Rebecca? We have 5 yet?
Yes, we're 5.
Okay, and it's important to make the world a better place, one person at a time. A lot of us say we want to make big change, and I think that's really important and really admirable, but we're not necessarily sure how to do it. And I think that starts by making each individual a curious, self-reflective individual, being their best self in the world so they can help other people do the same. Thank you. All right. Did anyone learn anything from the why exercise? Was there any sort of pattern in my answers that seemed interesting, helpful, useful? This is that awkward typing delay. I was like, is anyone typing? I can't really tell. I hope so. The hazards of the online workshops, yeah? Hopefully, you started to see that each time we got a little bit more in depth, good, Marley, getting to the root cause and thinking deeper about why you have a drive for something might help you identify the problem that you want to solve, right? Maybe the problem is not that the world's a terrible place, but maybe the right question to ask is, how might we make people more curious about themselves? And if we ask it that way, how might we, then we have a much bigger box. How might we make people more curious? Well, maybe we can do that through games, physical games. Maybe we can do it through technology. Maybe we can do it through face-to-face activities, right? How might we encourage self-reflection? Well, maybe if I'm doing it in the classroom, I require more free writes, more journaling, maybe more think, pair, share activities, right? To get people to be more self-reflective, maybe pre and post test, help people be more self-reflective. But if I realize that that is the core issue, then that's what we get at. If I want my students to become more curious individuals, well, maybe that means we do less exams, because exams is just memorizing and giving the information back. Like, that doesn't make you more curious, doesn't make you more reflective. It's actually counterproductive to the teaching that I want to do. So maybe I don't assign those assignments anymore. Or maybe if I do assign them, they're open book and open note, because the point is not what you've memorized and could spit back out for the hour that you're taking this test, but the point is that you can find information. Yes, multiple answers, different answers. The more we know about our inner core, and me giving you an exam that's multiple choice is not going to help you do that, right? So sometimes we have to get at the core passions, why we're doing something, in order to understand what problems are most important and that we need to solve. So you can play the 5 whys game with yourself. You can record yourself on your phone. You can look at yourself in the mirror, but I encourage some sort of visual of yourself so you can see yourself while you're playing and asking yourself why over and over again. Maybe it's something that you want to journal, right? You type out and then you ask yourself the question why, and then keep typing your responses. Or maybe you get someone in your life to ask you why. Friend, family member, little kids love the why game. They love saying why over and over again, because that's generally how they live their lives, like asking why over and over again. So find like a young person in your life to ask you why, friend, family member, someone who can really push you. And then make note of what comes up. Sometimes when I play the why game, when I'm coaching young entrepreneurs, they start to cry, because they realize it's not just about this business. This is about my financial independence. This is about taking care of my family. This is about having something that's truly mine for the first time ever. This is about expanding my capacity. This is about saying to all those naysayers that I can do it. I can build. I am qualified. There is a part of my life where I excel, right? And when you know what that passion is, it will keep driving you when things get difficult. When you face unanticipated problems, when it might be time to pivot your business, if you know why you're in the game, it's easier to stay if you're connected to your passion. Okay, we talked about problems, we talked about passions, and now I want to talk about people. I said earlier that groups generate and select more creative ideas than people working alone. Ideas come from your community, they come from your networks. And so now, Beth, I think I'd like to play with that whiteboard if we can. This is our first time using the whiteboards. We are hoping for the best here.
Yeah, let's see. I think we got it.
Okay. You all have access to the whiteboard?
And also, I didn't mention this before, guys, but my dog is in here. So if you hear her, that's who's snoring. Sorry. Yeah, I see Rebecca.
Okay, all right, I see folks popping on. All right, so if you press the in on your keyboard, you can create a sticky. And in your sticky, I want you to write one word that sums what you're passionate about. So I'll put teaching in my sticky. And then also our names on here. No, all right. Teaching and my name. Okay. So create your stickies, one word about something that you're passionate about. Maybe it's related to your business idea. Maybe it's just something that you can't live without. One word. Put in your sticky and include your name in parentheses. Olivia, I need you to bring it to one word. Can you do it? Let me make a little more space here. And you can include more than one if you like. So I'll put yoga in here too. Okay, don't forget your name. Dennis, are you having any luck or is it still loading? Still loading. Okay. One word. Yes. One word about what you're passionate about. Something that you're passionate about that you can't live without. You got to have it. Maybe it's linked to your business idea. Maybe it's something else. You can include as many stickies as you want. Something that you're passionate about. Here, I'll also put it in the chat. Okay. Thank you, Dennis. Beth will hook you up. Okay, we've got swimming. Olivia, do you want us to add yours too? There it is. Beth's got you. We got freedom, we've got art. Beth, did you add some too? For you?
I did street art and entrepreneurship. They're over on the over here.
All right. Beth, will you help me as co-host drag them a little bit closer together?
Yep.
Ideas, I love it. Goals, okay. Now we're cooking with grease. All right.
I'm gonna go ahead and put Pedro's in a sticky because it's not.
Okay.
Okay. Jim.
All right. Yes, there we go. Do that a little bit, get everybody in here. Sweet. Okay, I see a few more folks typing. Yes, yes. I love this. Passionate about failure. It's how we learn.
I really like that one too.
It's good. Okay. So now I want you all to go to the drawing tool, and I want you to draw a line between something that you wrote and something that's connected, right? That's on someone else's post-it. So for example, I am passionate about teaching, which links to ideas. I'm passionate about teaching, which also links to growth. Yes, so I want you to draw as many lines between your idea and other stickies that connect between you and your idea. So I'm passionate about reading. That's also ideas. Teaching, it's connected to reading. Go ahead and draw your lines in any color that you like. Oh no, Olivia, I'm not sure why that is. And I'm not sure what to do about it either.
Oh, I'm sorry, Olivia.
Beth, do we set it so that the whiteboard would be accessible after the session?
Yes. Everything's being recorded, so you guys all have access to this.
Okay, so hopefully you'll be able to see it on a replay, Olivia.
And I did add yours, Olivia.
Yes, we do have you on here. Okay, this is looking very messy, and that's exactly what I wanted, right? I wanted these lines, this mess of lines, to show you that whatever you're passionate about doesn't exist in isolation. It will always be part of a system or a network that's greater. The whole of that network is greater than the sum of its parts. And we're all part of systems, and these networks and systems help us generate stronger ideas. So whenever you get stuck, there's a whole mess of people that are also passionate about things that you're passionate about. And that's the whole point here, right? So if someone included their name on the sticky about what they're passionate about, and it has a bunch of lines between your sticky and theirs, then DM them in the chat and say, hi, right? I'm so-and-so, I'm also interested in, right? I can message Pedro and be like, Pedro, I know you spend a lot of time in the gym. I do a lot of yoga, I do a lot of Pilates. Like maybe we could do something together, right? Maybe we could build something together. Or maybe Pedro spends a lot of time in the gym. The person who likes to swim, maybe find that they have connections. Olivia likes art, Beth likes street art. Maybe Olivia and Beth decide to get together and be like, hey, you like art, I like art. Like we should talk about the things that we like. Maybe we can support each other, help each other out, build something together. Whoever likes adventure should probably connect with the person who likes freedom, right? Then maybe there's something that you could build together, right? The messier this whiteboard is, the more successful we've been, right? In identifying problems, connections, passions, people that might be able to help us make our dreams come true, and people who we might be able to help make their dreams come true. So to some, thinking about how we get to these good ideas, we can get to these ideas by just identifying problems that are top of mind for us. We can get to these good ideas by identifying passions, not only passions that we have, but passions that people around us have. If you're in a community of people that are very passionate about a particular thing, it might not be your thing, but you might be able to help them elevate their passions or communicate their passions more clearly or find ways to make their passions more profitable. And then third, the other way to come up with good ideas is by networking with other people, making connections with people who already exist in your community and just are waiting for you to find each other and build something amazing. Any questions about that creative problem solving segment? Questions, comments, any feedback at all?
Dennis said, I'm loving it in the chat.
Nice. This is actually one of my favorite activities. Okay, let's come out of the whiteboard. Beth, I think I need you to close it.
I'm just gonna share it really quickly to myself, just in case.
Backup plans for backup plans, very important.
Yeah. Can I do that? Okay, that's okay. There you go.
Okay. So here's an added bonus. Spiritual problem solving. I want to encourage you to also think about your spiritual practices that might help you solve problems, develop solutions, identify problems, develop solutions, and get to good ideas. So for some of you, that might be prayer, meditation, visualization. Maybe you're a vision board type person. Maybe you're a physical vision board, cutting out magazines, or maybe you're a virtual vision board person. You use a lot of Canva to design your visualizations. Maybe you have artifacts. I have a necklace that I like to wear when I'm writing, right? I got it from Hawaii. It's this big clunky thing that I generally don't wear other places, but when I feel like I need to be creative, I like to put it on. It's kind of like putting on a uniform, and it puts me in my creative space. Some of you might have rituals, things that you do daily, right? Or that you might want to do in particular before you get to identifying problems, before you start solving problems. Maybe you need to eat a particular thing. Maybe you need to wear a particular item of clothing. Maybe you need to go for a walk or go for a run or put on a particular song on your headphones. Whatever it is, if you've got a ritual, continue to engage it. There were lots of physical activities like on our whiteboard just now. So maybe you need to exercise. Like Pedro, maybe you just need to go to the gym, like go hard in the gym. And then when you come home, you're like, yeah, like I'm ready to work on my business now. Like my brain's clear. I can do that. For me, it's yoga. There's a practice I do in yoga that if I can get out in the sun and do a couple of rounds, I always know what needs to happen next. It really clears my mind. Maybe it's Tai Chi or some other physical practice. But when we talked about exploring, we talked about the importance of pausing. Sometimes you just need to sit and daydream. Maybe you set your timer because you don't have a lot of time, but you're like, for the next 5 minutes, I'm just gonna let my brain do whatever it wants. Meditation's great when we try to like empty our brain or focus on the breath, but maybe you just need to let your brain chase every little idea that comes by for a short amount of time to see what happens. Maybe your brain will start doing the fusion on its own if you just give it a chance to. It's like, wait, this kind of goes with this and this goes with, how did I know, right? You gave yourself some time to daydream. I'm also a journaler. I have kept journals since Christmas 1984. I just dated myself there using red crayon, right? I've done them ever since, and I have all this documentation. I hate to write on a blank page. So oftentimes, the first thing I'll type is, I hate a blank page, and then it's not blank anymore. And then I can start writing about my day or whatever it is I'm supposed to be doing. I love a free write where I write about my frustrations until all of a sudden my brain finds its way back to the task at hand because all the distractions have been emptied. Maybe you just need solitude. I heard from a friend today. She was like, I haven't been by myself since February 27th. I said, how can we fix that? Right? So that you can be by yourself, away from family, away from friends for as much time as appropriate for your life, but a little solitude can go a long way. And for other people, it might just be straight up music. There's music that moves you, that moves your soul. Like when you hear it, you know that you're in your happy place, your most creative place, your most spiritual place. And when you play that music, you'll be able to identify problems, produce solutions, and come up with good ideas. So it's not directly related to the creativity part, but the yogi me had to throw it in there. Whatever your spiritual practices are, identify them, respect them, and practice them regularly. It is an excellent way to get to your good ideas, especially if you believe in divine powers or divine beings. Sometimes you just need to be still enough to let them talk to you and know whatever it is that you're supposed to do next, what problem you're supposed to be solving, and how you're supposed to solve it. Any other questions about any of that first part? Questions, comments, feedback? So be creative. Yes. Be creative as a way of life, Rebecca. So not just sometimes, right? But regularly. Be open to asking big questions. be open to exploring, be open to fusing, and then making your decisions about what direction you want to pursue for now. And then maybe you'll go in a different direction in the future, but making these tentative decisions so that you can find your path. Yes.
I just wanted to say that I'm really glad that I took this Zoom class because today I go to South Bay Adult School here in Lawndale, and they helped me get into El Camino College, and they have supported me and guided me all the way through there. And today I was very happy because I'm on my last class to get my high school diploma, and I'm already enrolled in El Camino, which means I'm in a dual enrollment program. And I got really good feedbacks from the school saying that they wanted me to make a video in regards to my experience and how my journey has been going. And honestly, I feel like watching you today and talking about creative, and you're saying all these stuff about just ask. I had just recorded a video today to help other students find their way to go to El Camino and find their goals and like that. And I remember saying the teacher asking me, is there any feedback, anything you just want to say? And I'm thinking really hard, like, what can I say? And I'm like, yeah, I do. I actually do. And you just said exactly what I said. It says, just ask, because if it only takes you to ask to get where you have no idea what they're going to respond back, but it doesn't hurt to ask. So I'm like, in my speech, I said, just ask, 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 ask. No question is stupid. No question is dumb. And if it is, oh, well, at least you asked, and you got an answer, which is something better than nothing. So I don't know. I feel like I related so much on what you're saying, and I got so much knowledge, and I learned something new today, and I feel good about that. So thank you.
First of all, Rebecca, congratulations, right?
Yeah.
Congratulations. It's a really big deal. And second, thank you. And thank you for reminding us the importance of asking, right? Because again, we don't know the possibilities until we put it out there, right?
Yes. I just feel like a lot of people are afraid to ask, and if they would have just asked, and if who knows, because I know that I asked and I got answers back, and then after I got answers, I got options. After I got options, I agreed, and after I agreed, I'm doing it. So, it just takes one simple question to get where you need to go,
I love that. I asked, I got answers, I got answers, I got options.
I love that too. The options was awesome.
Yes.
Thank
That
you.
creates possibility, right? That creates possibility. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else want to share? Okay. So believe it or not, it's been an hour already, folks. So let's take a little bit of our bio break. I will stop screen sharing. I will let Beth take it away with any, I know you've got your snack slide. I know you've got some music prepared. Let's say 7:15. Yeah, just a little more than 10 minutes. We'll come back at 7:15.
Okay, let's go ahead and take a break, guys. I'll put some music on, but we'll just be back here at 7:15. Thank you.
Are we ready?
Hello, hello.
Welcome back. Did anyone have any great ideas in the break? Anything come to you? Any reshaping of your current ideas? Okay, I had to ask. I will ask again by the time we get through with part 2. So if we were focusing on creative problem solving before, creative problem finding before, now we're shifting to design problem solving with your customer or your client. So you can't always rely on your gut to get to good ideas because it's going to go with what's familiar to you. You can't always assume that you know what your customers want. You can't assume that they're going to want what you want. And the core of design thinking or design problem solving is understanding your customer and getting ideas out to customers as quickly as possible. And we call this rapid prototyping. Design is a service. It's not an art. You design with your customers and your clients, not for your customers and your clients. And whenever you're building something that might solve a problem, ask 3 questions. 1, is it desirable? 2, is it feasible? And 3, is it viable? So you can think of design problem solving as problem solving made visible or problem solving through making. It is a very interactive and iterative process that's based on your customer or client, which is essentially a persona that you build. So again, when we're being creative, we're just being creative. We are building. But when we're designing for a particular type of person in mind. So I like to use this empathy map. The empathy map canvas reminds us that we're designing for human beings, and they have particular experiences that we should become familiar with. So the number 1 is, who are we empathizing with? Who is the person that we want to understand? What is the situation that they are in? What is their role in the situation? Number 2 is, what do they need to do? What do they need to do differently? What are they trying to get done? What decisions are they making? And how are they going to know if they're successful? Number 3, what do they see? What do they see as currently available to them in the marketplace, in their immediate environments? What do they see other people saying and doing? What are they watching and reading and engaging? 4, what do they say? What do you hear from them? Can you imagine them saying? 5, what do they do? What do they do today? Right? What behavior have we observed them doing? What can we imagine them doing in the past, in the present, in the future? 6, what do they hear? What do they hear other people say? What are they hearing from their friends? What are they hearing from their colleagues? What are they hearing from that voice in the back of their heads? 7, what do they think and feel? What are their pains? What are their fears, their frustrations, their anxieties? And what are their gains? Like, what do they want? What are their hopes, their needs, their dreams? When we think of personas, sometimes we think of demographics. Oh, okay, well, my audience is between 18 and 25, and they are predominantly Latinx, and they live in California, and they're in this certain income bracket and this particular zip code. Okay, cool. But that doesn't help us create empathy for the people we're building with. Like, who are they? Again, what are their hopes and dreams? What are they responsible for? What are their social and emotional lives like? What does a bad day look for them? What are they afraid of? What keeps them up at night? What obstacles stand in their way? If you spend time with your customers, then you can learn more about how they understand their problems. Because again, there's no guarantee that your customers want what you want. You know what problems bug you, but now it's your job to figure out if those problems are really bugging other people, and if so, are they willing to pay you to solve them? But we'll get to that part in just a second. So first, let's talk about design problem solving. So we had 4 steps for creative problem finding. For design problem solving, there are 5. The first is inspiration. We've just been talking about this, connecting with the needs, the desires, the motivations, of the people that you're serving, being empathetic. That's the empathy map. The synthesis is recognizing patterns and identifying themes. The ideation, when you get to your ideas, is when you translate what you've identified in terms of those patterns and themes, that meaning, into actionable frameworks. Then you experiment by prototyping and testing new possibilities, and then you implement by refining your design and implementing a rollout. And we'll take these one step at a time. So when we're gathering customer insights, which is essentially what this is, we want to do a particular type of discovery. First, we need to identify who we want to learn from. Sure, you could talk to anybody about your business, but any and everybody might not be the target audience for your business. Let's say that in your business, you are trying to get people to buy skincare products, right? And in general, I would imagine it's easier to get women to spend money on skincare products than it is to get men to spend money on skincare products. While you might also have a men's line, it might be easier for you to get to market faster if you focus on women. Well, would you be focusing on 18, 19-year-old women? Maybe, right? But generally their skin is still pretty good at that age. So maybe you want to focus a little bit older for your first market. But maybe you also want to focus on a market that is concerned that if they don't start taking care of their skin now, then it's going to be more difficult and they won't be able to reverse the aging process later. That's getting into some of their emotional goals. That's getting into some of the empathy map. So take some time to identify who falls in your empathy map. Like, who are your early adopters? Who are your initial primary partners? Who do you want to learn from? Then ask yourself, well, what do you want to learn from them, right? What of the questions on the empathy map, what other outside questions do you potentially want to ask these customers when you find them? And then you need to think about, how are you going to get to these people? I mean, sure, you could talk to people on campus because you're on campus and they're easy to find. That's convenient, but they might not be the people that you can learn the most from. So you'll have to ask yourself, how can I leverage my networks to find these people? Who do I know on LinkedIn? Could I maybe script a social media post or an email? Maybe I even use ChatGPT to help me create some prompts so that I can send them out in the world and sort of get connected to this population. Maybe there's someone in your cohort that can help you find this population. We just did the map a little while ago. You kind of know where your passions overlap. If someone has a similar passion, maybe you could ask them to help you get to the customers you need to talk to. So when you're doing customer discovery, and this is the inspiration part of design problem solving, you want to gather some data. Social media is a great place for data, and it's become even more sophisticated in finding out not just who's following you, but who's following what particular hashtags, the genders of the folks that are following you, the times that they are online, the days of the week that they are online, so that you can gather particular data like, okay, who's interested in things that I'm interested in? But Google is also an amazing source of gathering data because Google. Let me share screen of some of these Google sites here. Okay, so you should see my presentation screen and we can see Google Alerts. So I don't know how many of you know about Google Alerts, but I absolutely love Google Alerts. So I have an alert here for Barbados because I'm doing a research project on entrepreneurial resilience in Barbados. And a Google Alert sends me a summary of everything that happens on the web about Barbados every night. I get one every day. So I can scan it and know what's happening. You can set up, I encourage you to set up a Google Alert for yourself, for your name, just in case, you know, there's something about you on the internet that you didn't know was there. And now you can know. But you can set a Google Alert for whatever you want. Also, right? Beth is telling us how much she loves Google Trends. Google Trends is amazing and it's free and it's a robust database for what people are searching right now. So may the 4th be with you, right? That has been coming up all day. That's here on Google Trends. You can type in things that you're interested in searching and get so much data about what's trending now, what's available. So if you want to know, is there a market for what I'm building? Google Trends can help you find out how popular it has been over time. So spend some time hanging out on Google Trends, finding out what's there. Google also has a public data explorer. Now, this one is a little bit more robust, but maybe there's some data heads out there that is interested in World Bank development indicators, the Global Competitiveness Report. Maybe you want information from the US Census Bureau or the US Bureau of Labor Statistics. These are excellent places to identify potential problems, right? And also get information, hardcore data about those problems. Sometimes you'll say, there is a problem with unemployment in the workforce. Someone else will say, so, or they'll say, how do you know? Or they'll say, how does this impact me? Or why should I care? You spend some time on Google Public Data, you can answer all of those questions. And the answers to all of those questions become core components of your pitch deck over time when you're maybe pitching to other potential customers or investors or other audiences. So I encourage you to definitely take advantage of those Google resources because they're free, because they're readily available, and because they are incredibly robust. Okay, hold on here. I've lost my presentation. There it is. Nope. Okay, now we're back. Customer discovery tips. Again, don't just reach out to people that you know. Try to expand your 6 degrees of separation. So maybe it's friends of friends of friends of friends of friends that could help you gather data. Set clear and fair expectations from the individuals that you are gathering data from. Build rapport with people that you are gathering data from, meaning build a relationship with them. Build a relationship with those folks so that you are not only asking them for feedback, but you're giving them information too. Make people comfortable enough to criticize your ideas. When you're getting feedback from potential customers, you want them to tell you, I would never pay for that because. You want many of them to tell you, I would never pay for that because if it's one person, it might be an anomaly, right? But if you have several people telling you, oh, I wouldn't pay for that, then please don't spend your life resources building something that people won't pay for. Also, encourage your customers to tell you stories, right? Again, just like we talked about in the beginning, if you say, do you like this? Most people, so as not to hurt your feelings, will say, yeah, I like it, seems fine. But if you ask them to tell you a story of how they might use it, and they can't, then maybe they don't like it as much as they told you they did. If you ask them to tell you a story of how they might use it, and that story is really engaging, really interesting, and it tells you things that you hadn't thought about before, then you can have another aha moment. I thought people would use what I'm building as a writing utensil, but they actually want to use it as a pointer. That's very good to know. But you wouldn't ever know that unless you spent time with your customers and asking them to tell you stories about how they might use whatever it is that you're building. By extension, if you're still searching for problems and you don't know what your business is about, ask people to tell you a story about the first time that they knew what they wanted to be when they grew up. Ask them to tell you a story about when they failed at something that was really important to them. Ask them to tell you a story about the person in their life that inspired them the most. Hearing those stories from other people can, again, just like the headlines, help you identify some surprise problems and solutions that might be useful for you finding a problem or incorporating an aspect of your customers' problems into your business that you hadn't incorporated before. And the more people that you talk to, look for patterns and trends in the conversation. Just like we looked for patterns in the headlines, we want to look for those patterns when we're talking to customers. In our headlines, just as a group today, we realized that we're probably pretty tired and we're all doing a lot. We might be doing too much. Everyone is looking forward to a break. That's a pattern, something that recurs over and over again. When we did our stickies on the whiteboard, there were lots of words like freedom and independence and ideas, right? These big picture concepts. Develop patterns for who we are, what we want. In general, Entrepreneurs love freedom and independence and ideas and success and failure. And that makes sense because you're in an entrepreneurship boot camp, right? So the more time you spend with your customers, the more you can get to know them, the more patterns and trends you can identify and then apply that information into your problem solving. Okay, so now you're probably thinking, Dr. Lee, how do I do this, right? How do I actually do the customer discovery? Well, a low-hanging fruit is to do surveys. You can create a survey on a Google form. I happen to love Google form, but there's Typeform, there's SurveyMonkey, there's Qualtrics, there's so many free products out there. You can create online surveys that are Likert, meaning ranging from strongly disagree to strongly agree. Maybe there are multiple choice options. Maybe there are short answer survey questions. You can gather different types of data. But remember, when you're asking surveys, don't just ask yes or no questions because that's it, right? Do you think my product is a good idea? Yes. But you don't know why they think it's a good idea. You don't know how they would use it. You don't know if they tell their friends. So try to ask more of those open-ended questions, or at least a Likert question where you can get a range of how much they like something. If everyone says they're neutral, like a 3 on a scale of 1 to 5 for the product that you're offering, maybe you should rethink how you offer it, right? Because nobody's really excited. But if you've got 97% of your folks giving you a 5 excited, and then 3% giving you a 1, well, you can probably feel comfortable moving in the direction of the 97%. Make sure you also send your survey to the right people. Because if you send your survey to your friends and family and they are not on your empathy map and they're not your target customers, then you're not going to get the best data. So do the homework, figure out who your customer segment is, send the survey to them, and also send it with a clear deadline. Y'all know how it is. I'm sure your email is a lot like mine. You get so much of it all the time. Something comes through, you're like, yeah, I'm gonna take care of that. And then you forget. Right? So send that clear deadline in the subject line. Let people know that you're going to remind them again in 1 week so they're not annoyed that you're spamming them. You told them you would remind them again. And then emphasize how important it is that you get this data in a short amount of time. Once you get the data, identify your insights. Like, what are people telling you? What are they interested in? Look for patterns, things that recur. Things that recur are very significant because multiple people are saying the same thing. But there also might be something that one person says that just sits with you. It's so important. It was so like, oh, I never thought about this, that it becomes a spotlight. And those can be important too when you're identifying your insights. Then after you have this data, then you can update your customer profiles. It turned out that my customers want skincare products in travel sizes because they're traveling more after the pandemic. I had no idea that was going to be a thing, but when I asked them, that's what they told me. And now that's what I'm working on because making travel size skincare products is actually more efficient and cheaper on my end than making full size products. So I'll just start there with the travel products, right? I'm making all of this up, but that could be a really great insight for your business that your customers told you that you wouldn't have known otherwise. If you want to take a step up from surveys, then consider doing interviews. Create an interview protocol or a set of questions that you want to ask your segment. Conduct your interviews, identify your insights, same as before, search for patterns and update your customer profiles. Specifically, when you're interviewing, the first thing you want to do is build rapport, right? Get to know the people that you're interviewing, thank them for their time, let them know how much time you're going to be spending with them. And then you also want to ask some screening questions to make sure that you're talking to the right person. So this interview is for a childcare service. So if you're scheduling an interview with someone, maybe it's a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend who agreed to do this interview with you. One of the first questions you might ask is, do you have children? Because it's a childcare provider service. So if they say no, then they're probably not going to be able to help you. So this is one of those instances where you do want to ask a yes or no question, because if it's a no, then that's not your best segment. But if they do have children, then you want to know how old those children are. Because if this is a childcare product and their children are 19, again, that's probably not going to be helpful for you. Then you might also ask, well, do you pay for childcare? Because if you want to know if they will pay for your service, you need to know if they're paying for something presently. If they're not paying for something and not interested in paying, then they might not be your core target audience. You might still get some good insights, but they might not be the best audience for you to interview. Then you do your problem testing. So you ask them, well, how much do you pay for childcare? What do you like about the services that you're getting? What do you not like about the services that you're getting? Then solution testing. One of my favorite questions to ask potential customers is, if you could wave a magic wand, what would it look like? In this instance, what would childcare look like? Then tell them what you're working on. Hey, I'm working on an idea that does X for childcare. What do you think? This is giving the customers an opportunity to say, I think that's a terrible idea. Give them a chance to critique whatever it is that you're building. Like I said before, let them tell you this is a terrible idea. Let them tell you, oh, someone else tried to do that several years ago and it didn't work. Then finally, ask if there's anything you missed, because you don't know what you don't know that you don't know. So ask if there's anything that I should have asked that I didn't, because you can add it to your interview questions for next time. And you can also ask, is there anyone else that you recommend I talk to? Because if this person is already in your customer segment, then you can talk to other people in that customer segment and see what kind of problems they have, and if you could also solve those problems. In general, when you're interviewing, create an opportunity for your customer to tell you a story, offer you specifics. Think about asking maybe 10 to 20 questions, maybe 3 minutes for an introduction, 3 minutes to screen, 5 minutes on past experience, 10 minutes on habits, 15 minutes on the magic wand, etc. Okay? Just so people can have a sense of the flow of the interview, and again, how much time they're going to have to spend with you, because we all know your time is valuable and so is the time of your potential customers. Sometimes a one-on-one interview is going to get you what you need. And sometimes you just need a group of people. It's the same concept as the interview, but it's a focus group where you arrange for a diverse group of people that have the same core customer characteristic to meet with you face-to-face or online. You prepare your questions in advance and you invite the group to have a conversation based on your questions. When you're running a focus group, you want to talk the least. You're just the facilitator. You're just guiding and observing, but you want the group to have its own conversation, ideally as if you're not even there, so that you can be a fly on the wall and recognize, oh, here's some problems that I didn't know people were having, but once they got together, they realized that they were having similar problems, and best case scenario, your focus group starts to solve your problems for you, right? They start talking to each other, they start coming up with solutions, and you're just out here taking notes because the work is being done for you. And then finally, we have observations, where you just spend time with the customers and their families. Like, you shadow them, follow them around, go to work with them, go shopping with them, see what it is that they do. Spend an entire day or more with your customer. Face-to-face would be ideal for this, just kind of observing what people do. Or maybe you go to a brick and mortar establishment that sells a similar product that you want to sell one day, and then you just post up and watch. What brands are in the front? When customers come in, where do they go first? Do they ask for assistance? Do they seem to know what they're looking for? When they get to the checkout counter, do they hesitate before they purchase, or do they just buy right away? What kind of products do they seem to buy right away? When you observe in the morning, what kind of products are selling? When you come back in the evening, what kind of products are selling? This is valuable information for how you want to position whatever it is that you are building. And I know there's a lot of information. Questions, comments, feedback. Is this useful? Do you want more of this? Do you want less of this? How are you feeling? Let me know.
Don't be shy, guys. Dr. Utley wants it to be interactive, so feel free to give feedback in the chat. Take yourselves off mute if you want to.
You can DM me if you want. You can DM Beth if you don't want everyone to see what's in the chat. There's definitely more. I just want to get a vibe before we keep going.
Or we could do, maybe you guys want to just do an emoji, like thumbs up if this is good. If you guys are liking this and want more of it, can you just hit me with emojis? Awesome. Thank you, Marley.
I'll give some feedback.
Thank you, Rebecca.
So, based on everything that I took notes on here, it sounds like one of the questions that I had in class today, which was, my professor, Mr. Yu asked me that, well, asked the whole class, I believe it was, how would you want your consumers to see your brand as a branded, like as a, or like a low profit, like, so I was thinking, like, I want my brand to be big as Victoria's Secret, or as Rihanna's what is it called, the Salvage Fenty something. I want, but how do I get my products to be like that? But I also want my my products to be cheap, because I'm trying to make a movement here on the youth of teenage girls who can't afford an expensive panty, but like hygiene is so important to them. So what I'm trying to say is this is perfect, because I guess I'll ask the people who I'm interviewing how they would see the product that I'm selling through their eyes, like of they think it's expensive or non-expensive, or like how do they see what I'm trying to show them.
Yes, absolutely. And Rebecca, I wouldn't ever say cheap, because when people hear cheap, they think not
Yeah.
quality, right? So affordable, right, is the language that you want to use. Like if you were interviewing me, I was like, oh no, I don't want cheap, but affordable, that's definitely something that I want. But you can also do points of comparison, right? You can ask your potential customers, like, do you like Victoria's Secret? Do you buy it? Do you want to buy it? What price point would make you want to buy Victoria's Secret? If Victoria's Secret sent you coupons, what would you want from there? Or do you prefer Fenty? Would you pay for Fenty? How much you could also do points of comparison, because those are two popular brands on the market that you said are your models. And you can ask your customers, well, what do you like about what they built? What if I built that, but could offer it at half the price? Would you want that? Right? How much would you pay for that? Would you tell your friend? Those are the kinds of comparisons that you can make when you're doing your surveys, your focus groups, your interviews.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Mhm. Yes, Dennis. So I'm catching up on the chat here, and yes, it can be easier to ask questions about a product than it is about a service, but you can also think about packaging your service as if it were a product, depending what you're offering. So for example, when I'm coaching, it's not a tangible thing, right? But I can tell you the outcomes that you're supposed to get once you spend time coaching with me. You'll be able to do this, this, and this. And because of that, it costs this amount of dollars. And for some people that helps them, like, oh, okay, I can kind of think of this as like a product. Right? But Dennis, if you want to tell us what you're working on, we can do more direct feedback if you like. Okay, lash tech. Oh, well, lash tech is both actually, right? It's a product and a service. So maybe you ask questions about the quality of the lashes, or maybe you just ask questions. Again, we talked about the empathy map. How do you want to feel when you're wearing your best lashes? When your lashes are at their best, where do you go? Do you go to the club? Do you go to church? Do you just stay at home and look at yourself in the mirror? Are you making video calls, right? You can ask people about their experiences. What was your absolute worst experience with a lash tech? Now, I'll just tell you a quick story now. I had one that like glued an eyelash like too close to my eyelid. And so then my eyelid got irritated and it got bright red and I didn't have the lashes on for more than 24 hours before I had to take them off, right? So that worst experience, just like when we talked about the really bad ideas, your worst solutions might become part of your packaging. In our lash tech service, like we are careful with our glue, or we use the best products on the market, or our glues are organic, or whatever. I don't know that much about lash techs, but getting people to tell you those kinds of stories can tell you how you need to brand yourself so that when people get their lashes done by you, they feel they're most beautiful, they feel sexiest, they feel empowered. And you can get to those emotions that you really want to convey when you're talking about your business. Okay, good. right? So you'll be offering classes so you can help create questions around that. Awesome. Okay, well, it sounds like we're on the right track. Safe for sensitive skin, hypoallergenic. That's the word I was looking for, Beth. Hypoallergenic. Yes, right? Okay, so we'll move forward with one more segment and then we'll build in some more time for more feedback to talk more specifically about your businesses. Okay, so oftentimes at this point, folks will say to me, Dr. Lee, this is great. I gathered my data, I did my interviews, but I don't have enough money to build my business. Like I don't have enough money to get it off the ground. So what do I do? This is when I tell them, this is when you build your minimum viable product or your MVP. It's the least amount of effort required to offer some value to your customers. That's the minimum part, the least amount of effort to offer value to your customers. The viable part is that it should be as complete as it possibly can. You want to bring multiple features together to show how it'll work. So your customers are interacting with the full thing and not just one aspect of the thing, right? So it's not your full business, it's not your full service, right? But it's viable. People get a sense of how it's going to work. And in the product, there should be some element of transaction or some element of currency or exchange between you and the customer to test whether they really be committed to buying or using the product. So let me break down the different types of MVPs. So we have explanation types of MVPs, is when you create something that explains, or even better, shows the key value that you're offering. So maybe that's as simple as a brochure. That's my first image here. Maybe you have a slide deck. Maybe it's just a splash page on your website. Maybe it's a 30-second reel or a video or YouTube that explains what value your product or service is offering. So I know when I said before, you were probably thinking viable, Dr. Lee, that means I have to build the whole thing. Not necessarily. You could just create a video that explains how all the things interact together, and you can gauge whether people would be interested in that. This is essentially the Kickstarter model. You put up your videos, you've got text explaining to people what you're offering. You haven't actually built the thing yet, but you're asking people to commit to cash. That's the product part. Committing some cash so that you can build it in the future. Have you built anything yet? No. Is that unethical? No, because everyone knows you haven't built anything yet because you told them that in the Kickstarter. You're raising money so that you can build. So the regulation crowdfunding, the Kickstarters, the Indiegogos are opportunities for you to lay out, hey, this is the product or service that I'm offering. If you are interested in this, then I need you to commit some cash. And with Kickstarter in particular, you only get the funding if you have enough people to commit. So if you start a Kickstarter and nobody commits, either you just had like a terrible representation for what you're offering, or it's just not something the market needs right now. Maybe it's a problem that's important to you, but maybe it's not a problem that's important to your customers. Maybe it's time to go back and do more customer discovery. The second type of MVP is an artifact, is you create something physical that people can hold in their hands, and it should capture the key features, even if it's not in its final form. So let's say you're designing some sort of fashion, right? And you're designing a shoe. So you can take a regular shoe, you could take a shoe from Nike, but then put your tweak on it. Maybe you change the sole, or you put a different design on it, or you put some external wings on your shoes, like Mercury or something like that. And you say, hey, I'm building a shoe that's just like this, except it has these new features on it. What do you think? Fashion. Let's say you want to, Rebecca, we just talked about your lingerie line. Maybe you actually take some panties from Victoria's Secret, right? Maybe you cut them up, maybe you dye them, maybe you do something a little different. You're like, hey, these are Victoria's Secret panties, but my panties are going to actually be designed in this way instead. What do you think? Or maybe you do a very low fidelity model, right? You cut the panties yourself, right? You stitch the sides. It's not fancy, right? You can see all the lines and stitching in there, and you tell people this is not the final product at all. I just want to know, how do you feel about the feel of these panties? It's the material that I want to use. So how does that feel against your fingers? How do you think it would feel against your skin? And people are like, oh, and they want to touch it like over and over again. It's a good sign. If people just kind of like, it's not a good sign, right? Maybe it's trying to find something else. Or maybe you have two. Maybe you have two materials you're thinking of working with that are in your price point. Maybe you don't even have them cut as panties. You just have a cloth. You're like, hey, do you like this feel or this feel? Which one would be most comfortable against your body? and give people an opportunity to tell you. My middle example is a physical version of a digital product. So let's say you're building an app, but you don't have a designer yet. You don't have the money for that. But before you put all the money into getting a designer, maybe you just build a physical version. When I built my online game for Love Lines, right, it existed on the web. But before that, it was 3x5 cards cut up in tiny strips. And it was a game. And so I put the strips in a Ziploc bag, and then I dumped them out, and then people would push them around the table so I could see how they would play my game. Before I spent a dime, y'all, I used crayons and index cards, right? That's an MVP. But I would lay them out and I'm like, hey, this is your opening screen. What's the first thing you want to do? And people would slide a card over here and slide a card there. And I'm like, I hadn't thought that that would be the first thing people would do. Okay, so let me really quickly, because it's an MVP, I can reorder my cards on the table. I'm like, okay, I've reordered them, redesigned on the fly. Now what's the first thing you do? And then I realized people were moving in the direction I wanted them to move. Excellent. Right? So we took that paper game basically that we played on tables and made like a wireframe on a web page. Someone else's web page, very simple wireframe. People could click and make comments, right? But it wasn't a full website or anything like that. I think we use InDesign. People would click, they'd make comments. I like this, I don't like this. Very useful. Y'all, I still hadn't spent any money, but I was gathering lots of data from my customers about what they wanted. When we first went on the web, it was a very, very baby rudimentary version. I went to college classes, I stood in the back and I watched the students' screens, where they were clicking, what they were interested in. And then I asked them, tell me what you hate about it. And they told me, and I was like, useful information, right? Then I went back, rebuilt, came back with another MVP, very basic version, still hadn't cost me any money. And I asked the students for feedback. And so I felt like we were ready to actually build on the web. So this third image here is actually a wireframe. It's a storyboard board where you sketch out a sequence that someone can visually move through. These wireframes can also be on paper, but there's also a lot of free wireframe software that you can use online. And the final thing is an experience. An MVP type could be an experience, something that captures how it feels to experience your product or service. So let's say that you are doing a concierge service. So maybe down the line, it's going to send automatic text messages to people. But until that happens, maybe you just set up a booth, right? And see if people would come up to the booth and give you $1 for advice, right? Or let's say that you've got an advising service that you want to build for career advice. 30 minutes for career advice. You want that to be online because it's an online service that people will buy a subscription for. But before you build this subscription, again, you just set up a pop-up booth at the farmer's market or a campus event and say, hey, for $10, we have experts here who will give you 30 minutes of career advice. See how many people sign up? See how many people come back? See how many people bring their friends back? See how many people will follow you on Instagram and say, hey, this was a great experience, because those persons giving the career advice are the people creating your videos for your online subscription. And if people aren't happy with the advice, no one's going to sign up for the online subscription. Now, granted, it's not foolproof, right? I have learned the hard way that sometimes things that work in your face-to-face don't necessarily translate to online. But it's better to practice it face-to-face and gather that data than to just build it online and not know if anybody is ever going to come. Because one of the things you might discover is that, you know what, I thought a subscription service was the best idea, but people really want this face-to-face. So I'm changing my whole model. It's not a product now. It's actually a service that I'm offering face-to-face. Another way to do an experience is a website, right? That might just say, we don't have this product in stock yet, but it's great to know you're interested. Please give us your email so we can let you know when it's ready. Data collection. Maybe in addition to asking for emails, there's a short little survey. Thanks for coming to our website. We're glad that you're interested in our new lash services, right? To receive a coupon for 10% off, please give us your name, your zip code, your genders, how much you would spend on lash services in the future, and you collect a bunch of data from people so they get a 10% coupon the next time they actually come to you. Maybe also your experience is spatial. This is a floor map here. Maybe you walk people through a layout or an experience. Right? Maybe you want to get into real estate. Maybe you're a designer. Maybe it's also something you might take to the web at some point, but instead you just ask people to walk through the experience. And then you note where they stop, where they get confused, where they turn around, and you think, oh, Okay, again, that's useful information. I didn't expect anybody to go to the left, but everyone went to the left first. So I should think about designing to the left first, as opposed to designing to the right, right? Maybe you're right-handed. It makes sense to you to start on the right, but if everybody else starts on the left, then maybe you should start from the left. There's these tiny little details that you can't get unless you spend time with the people that you're designing for. So after you've done your MVP types, then you can test. Are people intrigued by your MVP? There's a pickup test when maybe you place several different versions of a product on a table. Again, Rebecca, maybe these are 3 different materials for your lingerie. Which one do people pick up, right? Maybe you cut up something from Victoria's Secret, something from Fenty, and then there's something from yours. So they're all in tiny little squares and people don't know what's what. What do people prefer? Do they always pick up your product or do they always pick up one of the others? And if they pick up one of the others, what do they seem to like about the others that yours doesn't have that maybe you could fix? What happens if you tweak a couple of your features? You notice that people aren't interested in one thing that you're building, so you change the features a little bit and aha, now they're interested now that I added something that wasn't there before. If your MVP is digital, maybe it's a click-through test. Do people get all the way to the end? Or maybe your MVP is a carousel post on Instagram. Do people actually get to the last slide that maybe says if you arrive to this slide, you get a free whatever that you're offering? If you see that there's a lot of engagement or there's a lot of likes on your post, but no one actually signed up or took that final step to get something free, to DM you for a free XYZ, then you know they didn't scroll all the way through and there's something in the middle of your MVP that wasn't attractive to them. So maybe you make a new carousel post, you try again. You still got the prize at the end that you're giving away, but you see if people actually get to the end now that you've made some tweaks. We call this A/B testing in the business entrepreneurial world, where you have one version of something and you have the second version of something. You launch both MVPs at the same time and you see which one people seem to prefer. Whichever one your customers prefer, that's usually the one that you rock with. Then you want to determine if people are actually going to part with their money in exchange for your product or service. Sometimes we call these fake sales, right? But it might just be a sign-up sheet where people sign up saying, yes, they would commit. Maybe it's the Kickstarter. Maybe it's a buy now button on your website. Maybe you actually collect credit card information, but then at the end say, we're not using your credit card information now. We're just really happy that you're willing to commit to us. Please leave your email address and we will let you know when the product is ready. If you have a subscription service, maybe it requires people to put their credit card information in, but you don't charge them because you've given them an access code, so it doesn't actually get charged. You want to measure if people will demonstrate an intent to pay you. Sometimes you can set up a high hurdle. You can make your sign up process difficult and see who persists. People that are really interested will get all the way to the end. And those people are probably the people you want to do customer discovery with. Now, granted, you don't want your sign up process to always be hard. But if you need to narrow your audience, let's say you offered something free and you got a slew of people that are not necessarily in your customer segment, well, then maybe you make it a little more difficult for them to move on to the next stage and you'll see who moves on. And those people will be the people you want to spend more time with. Another thing you can do is hand over your product to someone and then go away. Come back later and see if they actually used it the way they intended it. So for example, I have a yoga library. I gave away subscriptions to my friends. They all signed up and then no one used it. A month later, no one used it. I looked at the data and I was like, that's curious. You all have always supported me in my yoga. Why is no one using it? So then I asked them, hey, you signed up for my website, but you didn't use it. And one of my friends said, yeah, because I take in-person classes with you all the time. Why would I want the website? And I thought, oh, it seems simple now, but it hadn't occurred to me. I thought, well, my friends always support me. They'll support me in this space too. And they're like, yeah, we signed up for it because you asked us to, but this is not important to us because we spend time with you face to face. I was in the wrong market, right? I was in the wrong customer segment. So these are all things that you can do to test your MVPs. And when you're testing, use the customer insight approaches as starting points. Yes, you're in this to gather feedback, but you can't do every single thing that every single customer asks you to do, right? Some of these things are just unreasonable. Some of these things you're not going to be able to afford. Some of these things you might feel really strongly. I mean, I know that that's important, but it's just not something that I want to do. And that's okay. You're still in charge, right? You are still building your product. But these are all things that you can engage as potential tests. You could use Google again, Google AdWords, to run advertisements and see how many clicks you get. Most of these things we have talked about already. When it comes to testing principles, evidence trumps opinion. Now, this goes for you. You might be like, I know what I'm doing. This is great. But if all the evidence says it's not great, it's just time to rethink it a little bit. I'm not saying give up. I'm just saying it's time to rethink, maybe further justify. But also when it comes to your customers, if everyone's like, oh, I like it, I like it, I like it, but they can't back it up, then those are just opinions and they're not giving you evidence. Ask your customers to back up what it is they say that they are going to do. Someone put earlier on our whiteboard, failure, right? Was one of their passions. Embrace failure, embrace getting it wrong, because when you get it wrong, then you have an opportunity to get it right. So don't take it personally. Don't let your ego get involved. If you hear from your customers that something's not right and you know it's not right, just say thank you and go back and try to make it right, right? Test early. Don't wait till you've built a whole thing and spent a bunch of money and find out it's not the right fit. Instead, get that minimum viable product, even if it's just a brochure or cut up pieces of paper, like I said, get it out in front of people, test early, then refine your ideas later. But know that all these experiments aren't reality. They're tests at the end of the day, and they might not be perfect. So this is the opportunity where you have to decide, okay, I got this data. I know it's important. I respect it. I made a few tweaks, but we're going to go in this direction and see what happens. Always be building with your customers in mind. When you're testing, make it measurable, right? So again, if you like it, it's not really measurable. But if you ask on a scale of 1 to 5, how often would you use this? That's a little bit more measurable. Let's say that you want to gather data. Let's say you want surveys. Don't say, I just want some surveys. Say, I want 20 surveys in 24 hours. I want 100 surveys in 3 weeks before we move forward. Make it measurable. Know that not all facts are equal. It might be evidence-based, but they might not all be equal. Someone might have an excellent idea that you're just like, yes, I'm going to implement that, but not right now, right? I need to get the products out in front of people before I start doing this bigger extra thing. Test irreversible decisions twice as much. So let's say that you are hiring a manufacturer and you're going to have them build your actual product, or they're going to cut your actual clothes. And once it's done, and once you've spent that money to get it done, it's going to cost a whole lot to undo it and start over. So before you take it to that level, then make sure you're like, okay, let me test it one more time. Let me get one more group of people to give me some feedback before I make this decision that I can't undo, or if I did undo it, it would be prohibitively expensive. So I like these test cards from Stratigizer because they keep you honest. When you're testing, you start with your hypothesis. We believe that this is going to happen. To verify that, we insert something measurable here, right? And then there's 3, add measure, and we'll know we're right if. And then after you've done the test, then you fill out the learning card. We believe that. Then we observe that. And from that, we learn that, therefore we will in the future. And once you've gotten this information, then you're like, all right, maybe we can keep going, right? We just continue to iterate. We make these little tweaks and we go and we go and we go. Or maybe you're like, okay, it's time to turn at a right angle here. We're going to have to pivot. We're not moving in the right direction. We're going to have to do something different than we intended. The business is still alive, but we're moving in a different direction. Iterations are smaller changes. Pivots are bigger changes. Sometimes you pivot to persevere, right? I have to move in a different direction because whatever, world has changed. The biggest pivot we've all experienced is the pandemic. Things that we did face-to-face had to pivot to online. I don't even know if we'd been holding this webinar, right, on Zoom had it not been for the pandemic. It's a pivot. Did it kill our purpose completely? No. We just made a big shift. We're still going. Like, a pivot doesn't mean the end. But sometimes, y'all, you just got to know when to quit. You can spend a whole lot of money and spend a whole lot of time, and don't nobody want what you're offering. It's just not a thing that people want. anymore. And I think we learned that in the pandemic too. There are some things that we just don't need in the way that we needed them before. There isn't quite the market for them. And as we think of the new technologies, the artificial intelligence, the machine learning, as it starts to develop, like, I don't know that now would be a good time to build a service that helps people write copy for their websites when ChatGPT is basically writing copy for people's websites for free. Doesn't mean you had a terrible idea. I mean, yes, there's a market for it. Yes, it's a problem that you can solve. And there's a technology that's doing that faster and cheaper than humans can. So it's not really the right time to build a business for that. Now, if you already had a business, right, where you were writing copy for websites, now would be a time to pivot. Maybe you tell people that you are using ChatGPT as a prompt engineer, and because of your skills, you can use it as a prompt engineer better than they can, so they could pay you to use the technology to do it, right? That's a pivot. You're not writing copy the way you used to, but you're using the new technologies to help people write more elevated copy than they could without you. And when you're evolving on your entrepreneurial journey, look for alignment between yourself and your customers. Always measure and monitor what you're doing, improve relentlessly, and reinvent yourself constantly. Remember what I said before, don't fall in love with your ideas. You might need to iterate differently. You might need to pivot. You might need to quit. And none of these things have anything to do with who you are as a human being. It just might be all external circumstances for you and your business. Also, don't wait until you're forced to evolve, because then it's too late, right? Always be evolving with your business. Don't wait until someone comes and puts you out of business. Always be iterating, testing, pivoting. So you're like, okay, I was solving this problem. Now the new technology came in, there's a new problem. Okay, so I'm going to be working on solving the new problem, but then what might be the next problem after the new problem? Okay, how can I work to solve that too, right? Or this new technology is coming, it's creating new problems for a certain population that can't afford to use it or don't have access to it. How can I help this population keep up with everybody else, right? But if you wait until someone else has figured it out, well, then all the good problems are going to be gone. So don't wait until you're forced to evolve. Always be evolving. Questions? Questions, comments, experiences?
I have a question.
Hmm.
So if something you want to create, there's like kind of a market for it, but you want to make that thing like better and more convenient, who are the right people to talk to? How do you trust talking to people that are involved in that without them kind of using your ideas in a sense? Or you like, how do you get to the like-minded people with like confidence that they're not going to like sabotage in a sense?
Marley, it's a good question. And you can't ever be 100% certain that they won't try to sabotage. So you have to weigh the risk of me not gathering any data and just trying it on my own versus someone taking my idea and running with it. And this is what I tell students though all the time and on their entrepreneurial journey. The only difference between your business and somebody else's is you. And you know you and who you are and what you're capable of. So let somebody else go ahead and try to be you, but they're never going to be you as you are. It's like the two gas stations across the corner from each other, right? Like
Right.
if you develop your brand, you developed a persona that people know that they can trust and is honest, then even if someone takes your idea, or even if you're doing something that's already been done, people will come to you because you're you and they resonate with you. I mean, you all know you're in college. Every professor is not your favorite professor, right? But we're all professing, right? We're all doing the same professor job, but there's some that you want to take classes with over and over again. And there are others you're like, I'm never taking a class with that professor again. It's the same concept. But then also, Marley, when you're gathering your data, maybe you don't gather it directly from your competitors, but instead focus mostly on the customers, right? So maybe you're not getting data specifically from someone who's running the same business, but from people who you know who buy from that business, right? Tell them what you're offering, show them your version of your MVP and see if they can give you feedback that will be helpful for you to move forward. So in general, I'm of the mindset that I just like to share because I never know who might be out there who can help me. That's just my general mindset. And my friends often have a tendency to build in the dark. They prefer to be in stealth mode. I don't want anyone to know what I'm doing. Then they launch and I'm just like, you know, someone's already built that, right? Like, oh, I didn't know that. I'm like, why didn't you say something? Like, I could have told you that and saved you so much time. So spend your time with people that you trust, people that you know support you to the best of your ability. Yes, it's always possible that there's a shark that will try to undermine you. But at the end of the day, like I said, you are the distinguishing factor in your business between everyone else, and they can't take you away from you. So it's probably still worth pursuing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's see, Olivia, Pedro, I don't think we've heard from you besides the activities earlier. On the whiteboard in the chat, anything you want to share? Hi, Olivia.
Hi, I have a question, sort of goes back to the focus group topic you were talking about, and I just recently had an idea to sort of combine what I do professionally into like an exercise class, sort of like a ballet inspired exercise class. And I posted on Nextdoor and I got like some good responses of people that were interested. And so I want to cater the class to people's interests and expectations, but at the same time, I want to introduce something new. And so I don't know whether to do exactly what they're asking for or do what I always intended on doing with the risk of people not liking it and not coming back. And so I don't know like whether to kind of hold a focus group and get feedback after the fact or before.
Maybe you can do both. And maybe your MVP is an actual class. Like you gather people at a park, and for the first half of the class, you give them what they're asking for, but then say, hey, like since we're here, do we mind if we try something new? Right? Or set it up from the beginning. The first part of this class is going to be what you're asking for, and the second part of this class is going to be an experimental thing. It's for free. I just want to get your feedback on how you like it. So you get them there because they're getting what they want. You deliver that, and then you give them some little extra and see what they do with it.
Okay.
And they might just be like, this is awesome, more awesome than I thought, especially things that involve your body. Sometimes you have to put your body in it to know if you like it.
Right.
And like, this is more awesome than I thought. Or they'll be like, this is terrible. I didn't like it at all. But because they're at a public park, like if they want to leave, they can leave at any point if it's not right for them. But yeah, I think you should try both. Offer some sessions, offer what people want, and then like offer this new thing that you're trying to try, and then ask people for feedback. Tell them the class is 100% free, but they have to like fill out your survey in the end or stay for an extra 5 minutes for focus group feedback.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good idea because I felt bad about like charging when people don't really know what they're like getting into in a sense. So thank you.
Think of it as an MVP. This is your data gathering phase. It's free. Some people will come, Olivia, just because it's free, right? So also find a way to collect some demo data from them. Collect their email addresses, their phone numbers, get permission to text them so that these are people that you can start building your newsletter list and building your clientele with, particularly people that really liked it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay, no questions from Pedro. Anyone else? Okay, if you are looking to find me, here's where I live on the internets. On IG, I am at the Utley Experience, and on LinkedIn, I'm just Ebony-Utley. So you can feel free to reach out to me. Just if you do reach out, please remind me that you were in the El Camino session. So I'll know how you found me. And then also I was asked to give a bit of a plug for the work that we're doing at Long Beach State. So I know that pipelines are very important from community college to the CSUs or the UCs. And I want you all to know that if you enjoyed what we did tonight, we do this all the time at Long Beach State. So it's called the Institute for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, IIE. And we are the central hub for innovators and entrepreneurs in Long Beach in particular. And actually, you can still join us in Long Beach, even if you're not living in Long Beach. And even if you're enrolled at El Camino College, you can still participate in our IIE activities. So during the school year, Yes, Dennis, I will put it up again in just a second. In the school year, every Tuesday night, we have an Apostle Incubator. It's a free program for students, anyone in the community, that prepares you to build your business. So we start with ideation and we end up with business plans, and we do everything in between: pitching to investors, storytelling, marketing strategies, how to price your product. It's free. Right? During the school year. We just wrapped for the end of the school year, but we'll start again at the end of August, and it happens every Tuesday night. Then we have an Apostle Business Ideation Challenge. So we also have a Sunstone Innovation Challenge. The Sunstone Innovation Challenge has been around maybe coming up on 15 years, and it's a business plan Shark Tank competition. Big prizes up to $35,000 in cash for the Sunstone Innovation Challenge. Hanging out with us every Tuesday night prepares you for that challenge. But then we had a lot of students that were like, business plans aren't really my strong suit. I have really good ideas, but I just don't know that I want to compete in the business plan competition. So we also have an ideation challenge, which is even better, where we just help you ideate. We talk about design thinking, just like we did tonight. We talk about creativity, and there's a competition for cash for students who just have really good ideas. How cool is that, right? All of y'all would be primed just after this workshop for doing something like that, and you'll be even better prepared after the boot camp. So then usually the teams that win the Sunstone Innovation Challenge go to the CSU Startup Launch, which is happening like right now. It happened earlier today, where each CSU gets to send students to a big competition at one of the campuses for like big boy prizes, like lots and lots of cash. And we also have an innovation hour, which I used to host, but the innovation hour is just conversations with entrepreneurs in the community. We talk to music entrepreneurs, we talk to sports entrepreneurs. I had a session on Latinx entrepreneurs, LGBTQIA entrepreneurs. We had one with Black entrepreneurs. We had one for nonprofits. We had one for women entrepreneurs. It's really important for me in the innovation hours that we see entrepreneurs in different shapes and sizes and backgrounds that we don't normally see. And so the innovation hour works for that. If you just want to hear from an expert about how they do what they do, then we offer those once a month as well. All right, let me go back here. Dennis was asking for my LinkedIn and Instagram. So if you have any questions about our program at the Institute for Innovation and Entrepreneurship at CSULB, let me know. There are great programs at all of the CSUs, but if you kind of have your heart on Long Beach anyway, as a place you want to transfer to, we got you. If you want to start this entrepreneurial journey now, we guarantee you that you continue to follow it up at Long Beach State. And like I said, I'm part of the Institute. You can come to Long Beach State, look out for me. Oh, also, one more thing. We have an Apostle Enterprise Lab. It's a 2-course sequence on management and marketing. You don't have to be a business major to take it. You get to pitch, you work on your business plan, you work on your marketing strategy in teams for the entire year. So if you are hardcore, like I want an entrepreneurial focus, but I don't want to be a business major, that program is for you. And if you are a business major, you can still participate. It's a good mix of students. So the network is strong, the ideation is strong. And the very first year of the program, I brought some of my friends out to evaluate the pitches as investors. And one of my investor friends actually made an offer to one of the student teams. So, I mean, I'm not guaranteeing that's going to happen for you. I'm just saying that it did happen historically, and it could possibly happen again. So there's that. Dennis, I'm glad that you found it useful. I sincerely appreciate that. I'm glad to have so many of you like participating and going on camera. Like I really do appreciate that too. Is there anything else I can do for any of you? Feedback on any aspect of your business? Anything?
Do you guys have any questions or anything, even just specific ones about your business, things that you've been wondering? No, Dennis, Dr. Utley will not be back for the next 2 sessions, and we're going to go over those in just a second. But I would take advantage of this time now, though.
Mm-hmm. You all are very welcome. And you still have a little more of my time. We still got a solid 10 more minutes.
Yeah, definitely. We have some housekeeping things after, guys, so I don't want you to log off just yet, but Please, like, if you have questions or, you want to know anything about your business or the process, please ask away.
Beth, if you like, I can stop sharing and go off camera for you to do the housekeeping, but still hang out. And then if anything comes up for anyone else, I'll still be here.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Dr. Utley. All right, guys. Thank you again for all of you hanging out with us tonight, guys. I really appreciate it. I'm glad that you guys have learned so much.